spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm waiting for you to be done. I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about some nice, Scaryish topics.
Indeed we are. I'm really excited for this week. I have a fun topic that was suggested to me by someone at my current job. So
Wow.
Shout out to Amanda for suggesting my topic.
I saw you sent me a picture of a painting or something. So
Indeed I did, and that will come into play. I also have another picture that you're going to have to look at during my topic so I can get your thoughts on it. So that'll be pretty fun. So without teasing it too much more, I'm going to be covering the Tulloch Castle.
You're going to be covering?
I said covering, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm really tired. So we're recording at 1 a.m. yet again. So what are you going to be covering, Robin?
I'm going to be covering the Comedy Club in LA.
Nice. That is awesome. I am excited to hear yours.
Really?
I am, yeah, because I've heard stuff about it, too. Especially, I think Christopher Alton talked to us a little bit about it when we hung out with him at Disneyland. So.
Nice.
Good stuff. I'm excited for this episode all of a sudden. I'm not sleepy anymore. So before we move on any further...
We took a really long nap.
We had to. We were dying, man. We were up all weekend doing adulting, and it was just a rough weekend, so...
Adulting? You mean D&Ding?
Yeah, we did a lot of D&D, too. I mean, that's adulting. But anyways, before we go on any further, I just want to point out that it is January, which means it's time for the January Patreon push.
Is this our first episode of the month?
No, this is our second episode, pretty sure. Yeah, because the first time I did that was during the Storytime episode.
Oh, okay.
So for those of you who don't know, January Patreon push is when I bother you to go over to patreon.com/Scaryish podcast and sign up for a monthly donation to support your favorite podcast, which is Scaryish, hopefully. And if not, I don't know. For 4 quarters, you get early access to all of our episodes, and you get ad-free content, which is fantastic. At the $3 level, you have the Choose Your Own Adventure, where you can let us know what topics you think that we should do, and we cover them. We have a $10 tier, in which you receive some merchandise. Robin, tell us about that tier, since you're the one that creates and curates that merchandise.
Every season, I just make some new stickers or... just new designs, new little Scaryish themed things like buttons, designs. I've done zipper pulls at some point. I've done magnets at some point. So, it's just random things every season.
As I'm sure you folks have noticed, our logo does change quite a bit, and that new logo is typically what you will receive. And as Robin says, it's every season, so it's every 3 months or so: fall, winter, spring, and whatever the other one is.
Fall, winter, spring,
summer.
Oh,
and that's when you will receive your merchandise relating to our new logo. So it's fun stuff. We have $25, $50, and so on. But signing up definitely helps us meet our goals, helps us travel, helps us meet you folks, and it really does help support the podcast. For those of you who are patrons, we sincerely appreciate you. So, that said...
I also want to give a shout out to our patron, Connor. He is a part of our goodies tier, which is even above our shout out tier. So thanks to you for supporting us, constantly supporting us.
I know, sincerely appreciate the support. Connor's been there since almost the beginning.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic, and it's been great to get to know him. He actually is from Australia, which is going through a lot right now with the wildfires, so... or bushfires, I forget what we're supposed to call it. A horrific fire that's engulfing like the entire continent.
It's bigger than the Amazon fire.
It's really, really scary stuff. So we just want to say we have a lot of listeners in Australia that we love you guys. We're there with you, and we want to support you in any way, shape, or form that we can. So let us know how you're doing, and just, be part of the community like you've always been, and let us know what ways we can support you. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and move into topics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I'll be going first. This week I had a few ideas of what I wanted to do. The first one was to combine a few destinations that are haunted but don't have a lot of information and combine them into a single topic. A lot of times I'll find places or people will tell me about places, and as I do research, there's very little on what I can cover. And so I'm like, well, dang, I can't make this into a topic. So at one point I figured I'll just combine like 2 or 3 of them into a topic, and it'll be fun. So I was thinking about doing castles. And so I decided that I would hit up TripAdvisor and Yelp and find some reviews that claim haunted activity happened to them while on the trip, and that would be really fun to do. And then I went to the first place, which was Tulloch Castle. And as I was looking through Tulloch Castle, I realized I really don't need to do any additional topics. Tulloch Castle will work just fine because I wound up finding a lot of information on it.
Wow.
And I was pretty happy with it. So without further ado, I present to you Tulloch Castle. And as a full disclosure, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. The internet told me this is how it's said, so this is how I'm saying it. So if it is wrong, I sincerely apologize. That said, as the name would suggest, it is a castle. And as my description would suggest, you are able to stay in it because TripAdvisor, Yelp, stuff like that, it's clearly some place that's still in operation. And since it is on our show Scaryish, you can probably guess that there is something paranormal going on with it.
Does it have a moat?
I don't believe it has a moat, no.
Do all castles have moats? I don't know.
Not all castles have moats. Big castles that are like, I think most of the moats get filled in once like wartime is over because it's just very inconvenient. But I don't know about that. Okay. I'm sure there's castles out there that still have moats going on. That said, I think the three things that are the perfect storm for our listeners are castle, haunted, and room available. Like that's a shut up and take my money scenario. So let's talk about the location. Tulloch Castle is located in Dingwall, Scotland. So for those of you listening stateside, you'd have to foot the bill for a plane ticket if you would like to stay there. But if you are nearby, or maybe you're planning a trip to the UK or Scotland, a room actually isn't going to break the bank. A standard room with a double bed is $74 a night.
But it's haunted.
I mean, yeah, it's haunted, but $74 a night. It is a castle. And like a lot of the venues that we cover, you can also do like weddings there and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a nice place. When you look through the pictures of it, you're like, this is actually a nice place. And it's very old, and it's been well kept. And I shouldn't say well kept because it's been restored. They have like the original fireplace from the castle fully restored in one of the rooms that's supposed to be really pretty, and it's something I definitely kind of want to see. Definitely kind of is really weird to put those words together, but it comes out of me a lot. So $74 a night is the price for a room today. Like if I wanted to book right now,
that you wouldn't even be able to sleep because the ghost would be bothering you the whole time.
Let me get to it because the ghosts are kind of confined to a specific room, or most of the activity is related to one room. Depending on when you try and book here, you might be looking at like $350 a night.
What?
Based on availability. There's only 22 rooms in the entire castle. And a lot of times they get booked out because they're booked out for like specific events. So their more expensive rooms are the only ones that are available. I will say one thing I saw that is a huge thing for me when looking at hotels is whether or not they have a nice bathtub. I either want like a really big tub or like a jacuzzi or a soaker tub. And the Superior Suite at Tulloch Castle has a soaker tub.
Is it like giant?
Like clawfoot soaker tub, like copper or brass or whatever it is, super shiny. And instantly I wanted to go to this place as soon as I saw that just to take a bath. Because I absolutely love soaking up to my neck in really hot water and just being like, yes. I'm tall. I'm like 6'6", so getting into a bathtub for me is usually like putting my legs outside of the tub so that my chest can get wet, or just like having my legs get wet, and that's it. And it's just like not a fun experience. So really deep tubs are a big thing for me. So that is my review so far of Tulloch Castle as it looks as a destination to travel to. So now you know where it is. You know the range or the price for a room. So let's talk about the place itself. So finding out some of the history on Tulloch Castle, like looking up most things on the internet, was not without some conflicting information. A couple of places date the castle to around the 1550s, and others claim it's as early as the 1100s as when it was created and occupied and used. I am more inclined, based off of my research, to believe the claims that the 1100s were the date for two particular reasons. One is that the official website for Tulloch Castle does place it at the 1100s, and I'd prefer to just take them at their word. It doesn't seem like it's something they would need to make up. 1500s, 1100s don't seem to make too big of a difference to most folks, especially since those claiming the 1500s are basing it off of one official record, and that's it. Nothing other than that. And that official record just claims that someone was granted the barony of Tulloch in 1542. And that's like the most recent, or I'm sorry, the oldest official document granting the barony. So it's just the one thing that someone can attach like an actual solid record to, and not just like spoken word. That doesn't mean that the place just popped up in 1542, but that's kind of how it's treated on the internet. Which is kind of weird that just because some dude was named Baron, people are thinking that's when the castle showed up. However, the guy that was named Baron was Duncan Bain, which is a pretty badass name, let's be honest. He's like, it doesn't matter when it was built. What matters is it's here. Anyways.
Wow, did you... Oh my F.
Yes, I wrote that sentence in italics, so I knew to do it in Bain voice. Anyways, the second reason I am more inclined to believe the 1100 date is that the town that Tulloch Castle is in, Dingwall, had another castle for quite some time named Dingwall Castle. And one thing I found quite interesting about Tulloch Castle is that it had a tunnel underground, which is where tunnels go, that runs...
Well, no, not necessarily, because car tunnels don't necessarily have to be underground.
That's true. But this particular tunnel was underground, and it ran all the way to Dingwall Castle, because the town of Dingwall also had this castle in it, and they were connected so that you could move back and forth freely between the two of them. which is pretty awesome. Dingwall Castle is all but gone now, and where it once stood is now just some rubble, overgrown by nature. It's about a mile away from Tulloch Castle in Dingwall, so a good walk from one place to the other, unannounced if you don't want people to know you're sneaking about. And it is, unfortunately, the tunnel collapsed now, but you can apparently still peek at it through a vent in the ground at the front of the castle. So the reason that this all makes sense for me is because Dingwall Castle was absolutely there in the 1100s until it eventually went away. The reason I know it was there in the 1100s is because it was used during the War of Scottish Independence by both sides. So it's something that was claimed in historical record to have been there for a while. I think the War of Scottish Independence was maybe like a century or two later. But what's funny about this is I was looking up the War of Scottish Independence so I could get some names down, and I was like, oh, Edward I was someone who occupied this to try and help with his invasion of Scotland, also known as Longshanks. And he used it to help his siege, and eventually it got captured from him and used by the forces of Robert I of Scotland, or Robert the Bruce. I know these names, and most of you might be familiar with these names because they're two famous historical figures from the 1990s movie Mel Gibson versus England, or whatever it was called.
What?
Have you never seen Braveheart?
Oh, okay. No, I haven't.
So we're going to have to put that on the list. But yeah, Braveheart is about not Robert the Bruce, but William Wallace, who inspires Robert the Bruce to become this great leader. And of course, their enemy is Longshanks, the King of England, who's just all about fucking over Scotland. And he staged
Outlander.
I was so waiting for an Outlander connection to this castle through all my research. I was so relieved that it did not happen.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it connected to Braveheart, I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. So, anyways, it would seem that a castle existing 1 mile away around 1100 would lend credence to the claim that Tulloch Castle was also there at the time, especially since they are connected by this tunnel, but who exactly knows? Either it's around 600 years of history or around 1,000 years of history. Either way, it's pretty good. So we know that there were lots of battles that took place around it, some of the battles that took place on its grounds. So we definitely have the makings for ghosts. Ghosts are a fairly simple recipe. You find a location, you sprinkle in some humans, and then add just a touch of death. And that's all you really need to create a ghost. I could break down the lineage of who the castle was owned by and who it passed throughout time, but I'm just going to give you the highlights rather than go through every single person. So 1542 is the one we talked about. Bane becomes Baron of Tulloch and makes the headquarters for the League of Shadows, much to the dismay of Ra's al Ghul. That is a Batman joke.
Oh my god.
Clan Davidson would eventually take control of it roundabouts the 18th century, and it would pass down through their family for quite some time. During their time owning the castle, it would have a fire break out within its walls in 1845 that destroyed part of the castle. I cannot find any records of any deaths during the fire, so no quispy ghosts or ghouls in this one. I thought you would enjoy that. So Clan Davidson has some... Are you picturing the meme now?
No, I over the weekend already made a quispy joke during D&D, and it was so funny.
It was good. It's pretty solid. Clan Davidson has some attachment to some of the history when it comes to the ghosts of Tulloch Castle, but we'll get there. 1917, the Vickers family took ownership of the castle. Apparently, they're a very affluent family from across the pond, and they own some sort of aerodynamical engineering firm, I think even to this day, which is pretty cool. During their tenure, the castle would see some of its darkest days. In 1940, the castle was used as a makeshift hospital after the Battle of Dunkirk. Anyone who's seen Dunkirk knows that was a pretty intense battle.
Yeah.
Because it's a really good movie, and all you watch is...
stressful movie.
It really is. All you watch is, Cillian Murphy running around a beach and Tom Hardy...
Flying,
and you just see his beautiful, beautiful eyes...
Yep.
Hiding his jacked up teeth.
I was gonna say
I know you were. I took it from you so he can beat me up. Robin is in love with him regardless of just having a great grill.
He does not have a good grill, but just...
It doesn't even matter though, dude.
No,
he's super talented.
During that movie,
it
was so good. And you're just like, damn, he's a hot pilot. He's
a hottie boom balati, without a doubt. All right, so during the Battle of Dunkirk...
Wait, is Tom Hardy Bane? He's Bane, right?
Yeah, he's Bane.
Oh, okay.
There's a little connection for you. Bane to Dunkirk. You're welcome, folks. Lots of Christopher Nolan in this episode. During the Battle of Dunkirk, the Allies, or the good guys, depending on your perspective, had around 62,000 people killed or wounded during the battle, and Tulloch Castle would house some of those wounded and eventually some of the dead of the battle. So we definitely have tragedy and trauma within the walls of the castle. In 1996, so pretty recently, I'm probably going to say the name wrong, the Macaulays, M-A-C, capital A-U-L-A-Y-S. They gained control of it. They restored it to its original state as much as they could, and they decided to turn it into a hotel, which it is to this day. So you have the history of 1,000 years pretty quickly. I left out a lot of the who it passed to, who's the baron, all that stuff. Let's get to the paranormal stuff. That's what we're here for. Disclaimer, this could all be bullshit. The most famous apparition to walk the walls of Tulloch Castle is known as the Green Lady, a.k.a. Lady Elizabeth Davidson. And the story of how Lady Elizabeth Davidson, or as I'm going to refer to her, Lizzie D, came to be the Green Lady is a sad but fairly believable one. Lizzie D was actually a young girl. Like, you hear the title Lady and you think she sounds all grown up, but she was just a kid. And like kids do, she was wandering around the castle unattended. She was actually searching for something. Or rather, someone.
Was she climbing the castle walls and then she saw like a brother and sister banging and then they shoved her out the window?
That's exactly what happened. And this spawned the war between Robert Baratheon. I can't even remember anymore. God, Game of Thrones has just been wiped from my mind to make room for The Witcher. So, not really. I can't wait for the next book to come out. Winds of Winter is like so overdue in my brain. I can't wait to hear it. Lizzie D's wandering around the castle looking for someone. That someone is her father. I read a lot of articles that just said her father and didn't say who her father was. A lot of them
Sean
didn't.
Bean.
A lot of them, that's so funny. A lot of them didn't name her. I found a few sites that named her as Elizabeth Davidson. And so I was like, it's got to be one of the Davidson people, one of the barons. It's going to be one of them. So I did a lot of digging and I finally found a site that claimed her father was none other than Duncan Davidson, nicknamed the Stag, which is hilariously the emblem of House Baratheon.
House Baratheon? Oh my god!
And very much like King Robert Baratheon, he was not a good dude.
Aww.
She would open the door to one of the bedrooms in the castle, and there he was, just taking his fucking mistress to Pound Town.
Wow.
Side note,
unfortunate.
I read the description on a lot of sites, but my favorite description came from one that described it as such. She, quote, surprised her father with another woman. And I read it because it's written in, like, a different dialect of English because it's from the UK. And when I read it at first, I was like, this really goes to show that although we speak the same language,
it's so different.
My English usage is far more trashy. And their context is a little bit different because when I read that, I was like, wait.
She brought a lady
She was
to
like,
her dad?
hi, Dad, here's another woman. I know it's what you've always wanted. But no, she happened upon her dad banging his mistress. And Lizzie D saw Davidson dad giving this woman the D, who was not her mom.
Too many D's going on right now.
She was shocked and appalled at the sight, and she ran. She ran away.
It was disgusting.
Probably a mixture of anger and sadness. I can't imagine walking in on something like that. Maybe to go narc him out. Maybe the mom was in the house, and she's going to be like, Dad's banging the maid. Who knows? She ran away, but as she fled, she, I hope you can hear my air quotes, tripped on a flight of stairs and took a tumble, snapping her neck and or breaking her dome piece in the process.
So it is like Game of Thrones.
Little bit. When her body came to rest, she had shuffled loose the mortal coil. She did. Now, it's not exactly stated in any of these legends which room she found her dad going heels to Jesus in.
Oh my god!
But it is said
What?
she is often seen in two places.
What?
Room number 8 and the staircase she died. So I can reason from this that room number 8 must be where she witnessed this ridiculous
That's the
event.
$74 room.
I don't know what I was trying to find them, and they don't number them; they name them on their website. So I'm not sure which one room number 8 is. I'm sure if you want to book it, you can just call and be like, "I want the haunted room number 8, please," and they'll let you know how ridiculously expensive it'll probably be. What's interesting about this is that a young boy by the name of Connor Bond, which is, again, a pretty cool name.
Bond. Connor
took a photo,
Bond.
exactly, took a photo of the Green Lady walking down the staircase.
Whoa!
And apparently she learned her lesson because she's reaching out and holding the banister. This was taken recently, like 2014. I think. It might have been 2008, 2014, somewhere around there. What's funny is we always say, like, if everyone has cell phones nowadays, where's all the fucking videos and pictures of ghosts and UFOs? Supposedly, this kid saw something and, like, took his phone out and snapped it, and that's what the image is from. It will be...
When you say snap, do you mean, like, put it on Snapchat?
No, I think he just, like, he took a photo.
Okay. There's just... This generation of technology is so different, you know? My sister the other day was like, I just learned about Finstas and, like, all this stuff.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is that?
Fake Instagram.
I know now. But this picture is going to be on our Instagram. I'm going to actually show it to Robin now for her authentic reaction.
It looks like light coming out of a window, shining onto the stairs.
It really does. Most of it looks like light or a play of light.
Well, because down here you see light on a different part of the photo. If you guys go to Instagram, you can check it out. But one part of the photo looks like it is rays of light. And then this other side, it's like it could be the same thing.
It looks, dare I say, wispy.
It is wispy.
It's a red staircase for those of you who are checking out Instagram. I usually put up 4 pictures for each topic, so this will be one of mine. The one thing that looks not wispy, though, is it does look like there's a hand reaching out and holding the banister, which is interesting. And it also could be fake. Like, let's be real. It could be fake. I mean, I checked the Daily Record, which is where I found this picture at, and I'm pretty sure it's a tabloid. So, not 100% guaranteed to be the best of sources. But either way, now I will say there are other photos of apparitions within Tulloch Castle taken by patrons, and I will post probably at least one other one to our Instagram. It might be one of, like, girls' night out, and there's, like, an apparition between them.
Oh, okay.
Those
freak me out.
They look hella fake. Like, really bad. To the point where I was like, man, I really feel like people are just making shit up, and they're just being lazy about it, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm just going to draw on this with a little bit of crayon and just put it on the internet. So...
Have you seen the photo of the person that goes around Japan or something like that, and they're wearing a backpack, and they take a bunch of pictures, and in these pictures you see, like, red rings, and so you look at the red rings hoping to see a ghost, right? And then it turns out that he just has this stick with a red ring sticking out of his backpack, so everywhere he goes, it's just a picture with this red ring sticking out of his backpack.
That's hilarious.
But you're looking for ghosts in the pictures. I don't know. Yeah, these ghost pictures reminded me of that. So.
That's funny. I thought you were going to talk about the person who goes around and they take pictures, like an actual picture, and hold it in front of them in a location that something's been shot. So, like, they did it for Game of Thrones and other movies.
Or Lord of the Rings. Someone went to all Lord of the Rings
Avengers,
locations.
stuff like that, where they line the picture up so it's like the perfect photo that they're taking of their photo lining up with the surrounding area.
Yeah.
So the surrounding area is as it exists, but the photo itself is from a movie. So you have, like, the characters right there. I think that's really cool, but I'm weird. So,
I think it's really neat.
All right, let's focus back up here. Lizzie D's dad, Duncan, it's a lot of D's, apparently fulfilled a prophecy that was delivered by the Bronze Seer, an individual who might become a topic of his own. It's like kind of like a mini Nostradamus thing. People posit that he didn't actually even exist. Are you shaking your head at Nostradamus?
I don't know who that is.
Are you kidding me? Nostradamus, like, most famous prophet ever, like, predicted a bunch of shit that was supposedly supposed to come true.
Like what?
Used to be in the tabloids, like, I don't know. But there's a bunch of shit that people are like, Nostradamus predicted this was going to happen.
But is this like the Global Examiner kind of shit?
No, this guy is, like, super old. Like, I'm not going to go into a Nostradamus thing, but the Bronze Seer is someone like that. And maybe you can do Nostradamus so you can learn about it and educate me on all the things that they predicted. I know growing up as a child of the 90s, every fucking tabloid, everything that happened had an article run on the front page that said, Nostradamus predicted, blah, 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 blah. So, okay.
Was it, like, right next to the thing that was like, vampire baby found?
Yeah, exactly. So the Bronze Seer had a prophecy stating, supposedly, quote, the day will come when there will be a laird, L-A-I-R-D, which is like steward, I guess, of Tulloch, who will kill 5 wives in succession, but the 5th will kill him.
Isn't laird kind of like lord?
Yeah, it is very similar. So Duncan was a bit of a man whore, obviously.
Who is it?
He was cheating. I'm not. And he wound up having 5 wives that gave him 18 children. Aside from that,
Those poor, poor women.
it said that he had over 30 illegitimate kids outside of wedlock.
So he is Robert Baratheon.
Or as Sean Bean would call them, bastards.
Oh my god.
There's a video that just has Sean Bean saying the word bastard for like 10 minutes,
yeah.
and it's glorious. Google it. It's on YouTube. I cannot find any record of him actually killing his wife, so I don't know how true it is that he fulfilled this prophecy, but he did wind up contracting sudden pneumonia and dying, widowing his 5th wife. Some folks suspect he was actually poisoned.
Really?
Yeah.
They're like, stop it. My vagina can't take any more babies.
He was pretty close to this prophecy, and I think that's why people say he quote-unquote fulfilled it. So, aside from the Green Lady, Room 8 is the most famous thing within Tulloch Castle, because things happen quite a bit there. There's a lot of activity going on. Don't take my word for it, though. Listen to this review from an actual guest of Tulloch Castle. This was so much fun to read through these, except for the people that were just complaining about, like, their maid service. And I'm like, just get to the fucking ghosts. Oh my god, there's like thousands of reviews
with the maid service?
for Tulloch Castle. One person complained that they didn't get their fucking cookies with their tea, and they gave it a 1-star review.
I'm sorry.
It's like any Yelp thing. You're gonna have so many bullshit bad reviews from people who are just butthurt about the stupidest thing.
Just ask them for your cookies.
Okay, here we go. July 2015. This was left by a person whose name I'm not going to use.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's public, technically.
Yeah, I could use it. I'm not going to, though. It's not necessary. I will tell a story after this that I am going to use names for because it's an actual article. I'll get to it. Okay. July 2015. This is the review. As part of a Dads and Lads motorcycle tour of the Scottish Highlands, we decided to stay at Tulloch Castle, a real castle for our 2 lads to experience. It is an amazing place.
Language.
And if you want traditional Scottish experience, this is it. Staff, food, accommodation are excellent. If you like spooks and ghosts, this is also the place. My cousin, who was sharing the twin room with me, felt as if someone was pressing down on his chest. I was woken by him ranting in a deep voice.
Shut up.
In parentheses, not his. After getting back to sleep, we were awoken by tapping at the window.
Shut up.
We were 3 floors up.
No!
There is something fishy about the place, but we were staying in room 8, which is notorious for such things, with a question mark.
Oh my god.
Apparently, a previous guest had the same experience as my cousin. There's a lot of people who have had the same experience as his cousin. In any event, great castle, great food, great staff.
I have chills.
If
That's
not
terrifying.
a little on the spooky side. Our pictures seem to have the odd shape and figure in them, question mark. How would you know? Well worth the experience, though, and we would highly recommend the place. They loved it. They absolutely loved it, because it's authentic. It's a fucking castle. Aside from someone sitting on someone's chest or pressing down on it.
Demonic voices.
And him having demonic voices erupting forth from him. They didn't have any pictures in their review, which I was really annoyed about. It's like, you talk about fucking images that have ghosts in them, and you don't...
on the window freaks me out.
Oh, yeah, the tap, 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 and you're on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Again, I referenced Buffy the movie. You gotta watch Buffy the movie. So something very similar happens. That's not all. An event transpired in January of 2004 that raised quite a few eyebrows. A man named Tommy Tan, 38 at the time, stayed at Tulloch Castle. I know I gave you guys the standard disclaimer of this could all be bullshit. This is an actual article. These are actual interviews I'm about to read you. The experience could be bullshit, granted. However, this is something that was quite documented at the time when it happened. He was booked, Tommy Tan was booked for 2 nights at Tulloch Castle. He was unaware, as apparently a lot of folks are from these reviews, that the castle has a spooky reputation. I will say when I visited the website, there was nothing like spooky text, Comic Sans, none of that shit. It was just like, this castle's been around for a long time. You can have your wedding here, trying to have legitimate events and stuff like that.
All right.
They do have a ghost tour. One person said that they checked in and they were talking about spooky stuff, and the person checking them in whispered to them, "Would you like the ghost tour?"
Oh, that's so cool.
And they're like, absolutely. But this guy, Tommy Tan, which is a great name, did not know about the spooky reputation. This account is actually taken from the Rossshire Journal publication that is local to the area. Originally, when the story was written, the individual reached for comment at Tulloch Castle declined to comment until they received permission from Tommy Tan to talk about it, which I think is very polite. They were more concerned with guest privacy about stating whether or not this person had actually been there than about advertising something spooky that happened at the castle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once they got his permission, they went ahead with some commenting on what was going on. And who knows? He could have been there for something very private. He could have been there for the old Room 8 Bone Zone special that the Davidson clan was all about back in the day.
Gross.
This is Mr. Tan's account of what happened. Quote, I was shown into room 8, which was really nice. My manager was in room 5 in a different part of the hotel. This is a business trip, just FYI.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I went down to join him for dinner at about 8 p.m. The meal was wonderful, but I only had 2 small glasses of red wine, as I am not a drinker. I did say to my manager that my room felt a little cold, and he suggested I turn the radiator up. First red flag. That's me saying first red flag.
Oh,
the room is cold. Aside from being in room 8. He headed back to his room around 10:30 p.m. and turned the heat on. He wound up going to sleep before he woke up because his room was extremely hot, hotter than it should have been even with the radiator on. He woke up at approximately 3 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
He got up and switched the heater off. He then went back to bed. Now we're going to get back into the interview. Quote, I woke up again at 4 p.m. still feeling...
4 p.m. or a.m.?
Oh, sorry. I woke up again at 4 a.m. still feeling terribly hot. The heater was off, so I opened a window. So it's so hot in this room now, all of a sudden, with the radiator off for an hour, that he's going to open a window. And he goes on to say, I went back to bed and dozed off. This is really creepy shit.
No, I'm scared to hear it.
I had a dream in it that I was at my home in Edinburgh. Or Edinburgh. I don't know how to fucking say it. Edinburgh.
I'm pretty sure, it's Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, Edinburgh. There was a knock at my door, and when I opened it, there were 2 young girls, aged about 6 to 7 years old, one younger than the other. They both wore black dresses with lace collars. They didn't speak, but they wanted to play with my dog, Ryan. It's one of those things in dreams where you know what someone's intentions are without anyone saying anything, which just rings so true to me. He goes on to say, I did have a dog called Ryan, but he died last year. So in my dream, I told the girls very politely that it would not be possible. As I went to shut the door, I saw a woman at my gate. So he has his door, and then down the pathway is a gate. Yeah. Precisely.
Oh, so, I'm getting freaked out already. I have to sleep after this? No.
She had a big outline. The nearest I could describe her appearance is that of Queen Victoria. So regal regalia.
Okay. Yeah.
I know those words are redundant. I'm sorry, I'm tired. As I closed the door, I was woken from the dream by someone pressing on my chest as if they were suffocating me, pushing me down. So he sees this lady in the gate, closes the door in the dream, and now wakes up to an invisible force pushing down on his chest as if they're trying to suffocate him. I had to struggle to get them off me. I shouted, go away, and within seconds the pressure was released. I actually wondered if there had been an intruder in my room, and checked the wardrobe and bathroom, looked out of the window. I looked at my clock, and it showed 4:34 a.m. We're getting into specific time now, because this dude was so freaked out. I dozed, but at 5:06 a.m., 30 minutes later...
I'm scared.
It started again, only stronger, pressing me down. It was so forceful, I was struggling against it. It was as if someone was lying on top of me. I shouted out twice now for it to go away, and I was frightened. I threw it off, and then I rang for the night manager. I told him something weird had happened to me in room 8. He said he would come and move me to another room, which he's telling him he's going to do, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he's familiar with room 8, and this person's, like, actually creeped out. Like, it's bad for business now.
Yeah.
It's not a tourist attraction thing. I told him I wouldn't be able to sleep anywhere again this night, and I would move after breakfast. So that's the end of his quote. We'll get back into it. So after this happens to him, he turns the TV on so he can feel less frightened, like we usually say, like, we'll turn on Disney movies if we're having a hard time sleeping because we're scared or whatever, because it's a perfect antidote. He turns on TV. He still feels super creeped out.
Like someone's watching him?
He claimed that he, quote-unquote, sensed the presence of those 2 girls and the lady from his dream very strongly in the room with him. The morning comes around. He goes downstairs. Before he eats breakfast, he goes to see the manager to talk to him about what happened, to coordinate switching his room. He described the events of what happened to him, but then he described his dream. Upon describing his dream, the manager was kind of surprised as the description of the girls and the lady rung a bell. He led Mr. Tan to a part of the castle that contains
Is
in
that painting?
actual old painting, which does exist and will be on our Instagram.
Can I see it again?
And showed it to him. Robin is now looking at the painting, and I will finish out. So where was I? Okay, shows him this painting. It does exist. It will be on our Instagram. The painting is a family portrait of a lady matching the description with her 2 girls next to her. There is a portion of the painting, which I am now circling with my mouse for Robin to see,
dark?
that has been blacked out intentionally. This area supposedly contained their father, who was removed from the painting because they were so upset. That person is supposedly none other than Duncan Davidson,
the guy that was
stag
banging
himself.
The mistress? Oh my!
One of these girls is supposedly Elizabeth, the Green Lady.
Oh my god! I have chills, dude. This is crazy.
Mr. Tan and the manager both claimed that Mr. Tan had not been in this room with the painting at any point prior to this moment, which I think is important because you'd think, oh, he had dinner downstairs. He probably walked past this creepy old painting.
Yeah.
And that's how it wound up in his dream. So now we're going to get back into quotes. This is Mr. Tan's quote. He says, Mr. Laird, who is the person who's in charge of the hotel, so the hotel manager, turned on all the lights. So they walk into this room with the painting. He walks them over to this painting. And this painting's mounted on the wall. And it has one of those small lights, almost like a desk lamp, that hangs over it so it can illuminate the painting.
Right.
Okay? When he turns on all the lights, they flickered, as lights do before they come on. Then they all went out, except for the emergency exit light and the light above the picture of the Green Lady.
That's terrifying.
It was like something from a Hollywood movie set. When I saw the faces in the picture, it blew my mind. It was as if I had just seen them recently. After this, he was like, yeah, that's going to be a no for me, dog. I'll stay somewhere else.
Dude, that's so scary.
That side note, that wasn't an actual quote. He did book into another hotel nearby and left.
Did he get a refund?
No breakfast. He didn't even give a shit. He just left. He left his manager to stay in the hotel, found himself another place to stay, and he bounced. He went on to say...
Get rid of the picture. It's freaking me out.
Okay. So funny. Let me bring this back up. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
He went on to say of the matter, quote, I did not know for sure that no harm would come to me. So he's at this point where he's like, I don't know if something actually bad is going to happen to me, so I'm leaving. I was born in Singapore, so I am of the Buddhist faith. I don't know whether that was relevant. I have seen programs on the paranormal, but I could never imagine what their experiences had been. I suppose I'm grateful that I do have some insight into it now, but I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It was harrowing, and I felt very spooked by it. I would like to know if anyone can make sense of what happened to me or of what it meant. As a side note, I did some research. I found a lot of investigators after this article hit, after the story came out. They went and investigated. They did all the things, the dowsing rods, the EVPs. They tried to catch everything. They took a bunch of pictures. They say that they feel the presence. No one can explain what happened to him or confirm it or anything like that. No one can really dispute his claim either. Right. Although, after this, it's not like he tried to turn it into a movie. He didn't seek out fame. He didn't seek out fortune. It was like...
Dude, I have chills. This one's cool.
He was like, something really scary happened to me. I left, and I'm never going back. And he talked to someone in the paper because he fucking booked it out of there. He was just gone. So, of course, word gets around. It's still a fairly small town. Like, yeah, someone checked out for his second night and refused to come back because he thought someone assaulted him in his room. Like, straight up, he thought someone was in there. Only after looking around did he realize there wasn't anyone in here. Someone did that to me that I can't see.
And there's no one that could have gotten in through the window because it's 3 stories up.
3 stories up. So I went to TripAdvisor for all these reviews. I wound up finding information that led me to this, which was super fun. Those that mention the paranormal talk about being creeped out within room 8 or seeing something out of the corner of their eye on the staircase quite often. Like I mentioned, some of them are stupid and they just complain about, like, one person didn't have a reservation to have tea and biscuits. They told him, like, you can have tea but not biscuits. We don't have biscuits for you because you didn't have a reservation. 1 star. So I'm just like,
wow.
These people are fucking stupid.
Yeah. Biscuits are cookies, right?
Biscuits are cookies, correct. Okay. Out here, biscuits are different. Biscuits are, I don't know what they would call them.
Biscuits and gravy are like fucking, I don't know, they're like little bread muffins or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I hope Sam is listening so she can let us know, now that she lives in the States, what an American biscuit would be called over there in the UK. So I am curious about that. But this one was definitely interesting to do research on. And despite the terrifying nature, I am 100% convinced our spooky friends will request room 8 if they ever have the opportunity to travel there. I say, let's make this a location for a meetup if we ever do a
my
UK
God,
trip.
no.
It's supposed to have a really nice pub. It's supposed to have a really nice restaurant.
I don't want to stay there, though.
We don't have to stay there, but we can do a meetup where we all just go and hang out. I'm
It'd be
totally
fun.
going to book a room and be
It'd
like,
be
we're
fun
fucking
to go to
staying
Scotland.
anyways.
I would love to go to Scotland.
It would be great. And if we talk about going to the UK all the time. So depending on where we wind up going.
But Scotland's a little different. It's like further away.
It's further away, but I mean, we traveled a lot when we were in Japan, so I don't see why we can't travel here.
No.
So we're going to do it. I say we make this a meetup. No goal required. We're planning a trip eventually to the UK, so once we're there, we'll try and include Tulloch Castle, and if any of you are there at the same time, maybe you can come, say hi, and we can explore a little bit together. And that, my spooky friends, is the Tulloch Castle.
Cool. It was very terrifying. Thank you.
Yeah, when I found this account in the newspaper, I was like, holy shit, this is good stuff. Like, I don't need another anything. Like, this is totally going to do it. And I was really excited to bring that to you folks. So, before we move on into our next topic, we're going to take a commercial break.
And we're back.
Yay.
Okay.
Someone messaged me on, or no, they commented on our Facebook and said that the ads weren't working for like the last 2 episodes. And I was like, okay. Like, I will get them working, but I'm not in any rush to like pump the ads into our episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, it's a brief reprieve. It's a little January Patreon push preview of what the episodes are like if you go ahead and sign up for $1 a month. So
cool.
Good stuff.
All right, so this week I'm going to cover the Comedy Store in LA, and we're going to talk about the ghosts of comedy. Not really, but at least the ones that haunt the Comedy Store in sunny Los Angeles, California. We're going to go to the Sunset Strip, where you can find the wild side of Hollywood.
Wow.
The Sunset Strip area itself dates back to 1870, or that era. It's 150 years ago. That's a long time ago. And it's said that this history is the reason why so much paranormal activity seems to happen at the Comedy Store. As a bit of the darker, more troubling side of the area, this history wasn't always good. Bad things happened. It wasn't incorporated into the Los Angeles area until 1984. So LA police had no jurisdiction there. So it was kind of like...
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a wild place to be, right? It was a place to go if you wanted to hit up casinos, or burlesque, or brothels and speakeasies during the Prohibition era. You can kind of see how it naturally turned into the perfect location for nightclubs and places like the Comedy Store. And so the Comedy Store is a comedy club, which is... The name's like, it's a store, but it's not. It's a club. And
it's like the Laugh Factory. They don't actually build laughs there.
What's the Laugh Factory?
It's just another comedy place.
Oh, okay. I'm not a big stand-up person. Sorry, friends. I shouldn't be the one doing this. I guess you should have been the one to do this.
That's why I'm so excited, because I want to hear your particular take on this.
Okay, so the Comedy Store is a comic club. It was established in the 1970s by Rudy DeLuca and Sammy Shore, and has been the location of many a comedian's start to fame. So people like Jerry Seinfeld. People, can you just mark it? Thanks.
I thought you wanted me to leave it in because
No.
you hate Seinfeld the show so much.
I know, right? I guess you could leave it in. Fuck it. So people like Jerry Seinfeld, Chevy Chase, who I love, Jim Carrey, even Chris Hardwick went through the Comedy Store.
Now, I just want to pause for a second and ask a question. I don't know if you're going to get to it, and if you are, you can totally tell me to shut up. Sammy Shore is Pauly Shore's dad, right? I know that Pauly Shore's mom ran one of the famous clubs. I can't remember which one it is. And she did not want him performing on stage because she thought he'd be terrible. And after his first set, she told him he was awful and he would never make it.
Oh, no.
So I'm not sure if it was the Comedy Store. I'm sure someone out there, I'm sure Chris is going to let us know, like, yup, or nope, you're an idiot. So I wasn't sure if Sammy Shore was his dad.
I don't think Pauly Shore is funny, so.
I mean, if you've never seen In the Army Now, I can understand how you would think that, but that's a pretty good friggin' movie, so.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I really don't do a lot of comedy things.
You really don't. Yeah. You don't like to laugh.
I love to laugh, like that Mary Poppins song. Okay, so before it was the Comedy Store, it was called Club Seville in the 1920s, and this place was like the height of bougie, right? And it had what was called a marine room, where it was a glass dance floor that was surrounded by fountains, and fish swam underneath the floor.
It's pretty badass.
Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. It only lasted like a year because women were like, I don't like the fish looking up my skirt. And people were like, well, that floor might break under the weight of people dancing on it.
That's very true. That's the first thing I was like, did it break? Did everyone fall in?
Yeah.
Or did all the fish die?
No, I'm sure. Well, no. I'm sure there were ways to like take care of the fish and stuff. Maybe, I don't know. People didn't really have too much thinking ahead in that kind of aspect back then, I don't think. Like people that put goldfish in their shoes. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are so dumb.
Oh my god. Okay. So, one of the more well-known iterations of the building that would eventually become the Comedy Store was Ciro's restaurant. Not to be confused with Spooky Mom's personal trainer.
That's so funny.
Big members of Hollywood, like Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, Ginger Rogers, etc., would frequent the establishment, as well as infamous gamers. As well as infamous gangsters like
Mickey Cohen.
Like Mickey Cohen, the so-called king of the Sunset Strip. Some believe that Cohen actually ran his operation out of Ciro's. And so this is where the haunting legends start.
Have you ever seen Gangster Squad, which is about Mickey Cohen being taken down by a group of, like, not dirty, but, like, bend the rules cops?
No.
All right, I don't want to get too far off the beaten path. I keep bringing up movies. I will say one thing, though. The trailer for Gangster Squad, the movie, came out. It has Josh Brolin, so Thanos, and it has Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling in it.
When did this movie come out?
It was like 2014. It was right around the time Dark Knight came out. It was supposed to come out right around that time because...
I was all about that Dark Knight, though.
What was funny, I shouldn't say funny, what was crazy is that the trailer had a scene in it where they're behind a movie screen and all the gangsters are watching a movie... And they have Tommy guns, like the cops do.
Oh my gosh.
And they gun down the gangsters in the theater. Because it's about, like, you know, bad cops taking down bad guys. And then the Dark Knight happened, and that dude shot up the theater.
Oh my god!
So they pulled the trailer, and they delayed the movie by, like, a year before they released it. Because they're like, holy shit, like, we cannot have this go out. No one will see this.
That is
So that entire scene got pulled from the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Sorry, this is more suited for like a movie podcast that we're supposed to have started like 9 months ago.
I know. And that's why, remember when you said it, I was like, are you sure? I don't think it's actually going to happen. You shouldn't be saying that it's going to happen.
That's because Rob was like, you don't understand my schedule, do you? I was like, I do not. It's okay.
So, people like Liza Minnelli had their weddings here.
Wow.
It was just, this place it just has a huge history, you know? So during Cohen's time, it probably didn't help that there was a pretty notorious brothel right next door. So visitors to Ciro's supposedly hopped on over to the brothel, like for dinner and a show type of thing.
Nice.
But what ghosts can't resist? Naked bodies, right? That's what makes ghosts. All the nudies.
Is that what makes ghosts?
No.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's just so strange that when I was reading up on this, someone had to point out the fact that there's a brothel next door. Hey, what up? So realistically, if Cohen did run operations out of Ciro's, I could see the ghosts of his victims piling up in the area and then kind of haunting it.
That does make sense.
Because being murdered by mobsters probably isn't fun times. And I'm sure it wasn't quick. You know, they probably tortured them before they murdered them.
I think it depends on the transgression, really.
That's true. Legends have it that the building itself still has these peepholes or like handgun stations that Cohen's men used during what's called the Sunset Wars. And I tried to look up this Sunset Wars thing, and it was really hard to find anything because it kept coming up with like stuff about Sunset Strip or things like that, but nothing about mobster anything. The Sunset War thing was where different mobsters fought each other for dominance of the area in like 1947, 1950 era. These are supposedly along the little poles are supposedly along the stairway to the basement and are still there. And they would shoot people while they're walking down the basement stairs.
That sucks.
Yeah.
How can you make a basement even more haunted?
Yeah. Apparently, and you know what's funny is this whole thing is like about stuff that happens in the basement. And so I was like, why did I choose this topic?
Perfect. I'm so glad you chose it.
Apparently, there were a number of deaths that led to power struggles and lots of movement between crime families and things like that. And that's what the whole Sunset Wars thing was about. And so there were a lot of murders, obviously. There were a lot of assassination attempts, but through it all, Cohen survived somehow. Through all this stuff, Cohen survives. They even bombed his house. They bombed his house and he survived. The people were arrested that bombed his house, but people really wanted this guy dead.
He declared war, I'm pretty sure, on a bunch of very prominent
different
mafia
crime families.
Yeah.
So what he did was this whole topic is not about this guy, but what he did was he started gaining more traction and started getting bigger than the other crime families. So these other crime families were like, bro, no. So they started recruiting his dudes to their crime family.
It's just like the feud between Taylor Swift and Katy Perry over the dancers. This is fucking crazy.
And then they started murdering the rest of them. So if you weren't going to join them, you were going to get murdered.
You're going to have bad blood, for sure.
Oh my God. And so that's what happened. And Cohen didn't win in the end. But he did win in the fact that he got to die of natural causes. He died in his sleep in 1976, which not a lot of mob people can say, I'm sure, because bad blood? Oh my God.
Because they usually get murdered.
But yeah, this topic isn't about him. It's about the club, right? I just thought it was really interesting because Adam knows, I don't know anything about gangsters. I don't know anything about comedy. So while researching all of this stuff, it's all new to me. And it's just really interesting. So back to why this is relevant. Legend has it that Cohen would use Ciro's basement as a dungeon-esque interrogation/torture room. And some say that he even buried his victims under the basement floor, which would totally account for ghosts.
Yes. Again, this is how you create ghosts. Find location, sprinkle on humans, add death.
Add naked bodies. No.
Add titties.
There's also the claim that the basement of the building at some point was also used for illegal abortions. The super rude part is people say, on the internet, people keep writing, so some of them are really crass and really rude, but it is said that a number of women died on the table. And you'll notice that a lot of this is pure conjecture and it is storytelling, and there's not really any concrete, definitive evidence. And I'm sure it wouldn't be too difficult to just use one of those scanners that can scan things through the ground, because those exist, right? I'm not sure too much about technology, but I think there are some companies that can scan for pipes and stuff underground. I don't know.
To look for bodies, you mean, right?
Yeah, to look for bodies, to see if there are any bodies there.
So the advanced technology that's similar to what was used at the beginning of Jurassic Park when they're looking for the velociraptor under the ground,
sure.
Right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Can't they do that to find skeletons
I'm
under
pretty
there?
sure the only person that can do it is Sam Neill, and you're looking
Who's
for
Sam
bodies.
Neill?
Sam Neill's the main character from Jurassic Park.
Oh.
And, I just see him doing it. You're in the basement of the Comedy Store or Ciro's, and it's he's there, and then there's some kid well, that's not very scary. And he turns around, and he has this giant fucking claw, and he tells him how he's going to murder him with it, just like in Jurassic Park.
What the fuck? Anyway, that technology doesn't exist?
No, I'm saying it existed in Jurassic Park way back when, in the early 90s. I'm just saying, whatever it is now compared to what it was then.
Oh, okay. So, I'm just making shit up at this point. I mean, we're so tired of, if this exists, do it. Regardless of the specific events that took place, it seems that the ghosts are very, very real. Unsurprisingly, the basement is frequented by hauntings because, of course, it is. And I think that's the place where the scariest stuff happens. There is an apparition that seems to be reminiscent of ones that people claim to see fairly often in different locations across the U.S. So a lot of places, when you go to hotels or when you go to different places, they're like, I saw a man in a military uniform, And so this particular one at the Comedy Club is a man that's been seen in a World War II era bomber jacket. And he's been seen upstairs in the office. He's been seen in the kitchen. He's seen crouching or hiding, and then he disappears. And some think that this is one of Cohen's past victims, but I wouldn't necessarily assume that, just because I think I brought this up before, but I totally think some ghosts are just stuck in a loop. And that's why they show up in all these different places that don't necessarily make sense. They don't know it's a kitchen. They don't know it's the office. It's whatever place that it used to be for them.
Right.
Which is why they walk through walls, because they don't really have those...
Because it's the floor plan of what it was when they were alive versus the floor plan of what it is now.
Right. They don't care about our walls. They're like, fuck your walls. But I I just think that I don't think this guy was necessarily one of his victims or anything like that, but something must have happened. It just doesn't seem like it would be. Why would he be crouching in the corner? If it was a mobster, he wouldn't be hiding, you know? They would have just fucking shot him in the head or took him to the basement, interrogated him, that kind of thing. I don't know.
It's hard to speculate on something like that. Because
it's hard to speculate on ghosts.
I mean, if he's wearing a uniform of, like, a soldier, it would make sense that he's crouching or hiding. I don't know why it has to be connected to Mickey Cohen. So.
Yeah. All right. So, in the basement, people hear screams, they hear moans, and they even hear the sound of animals snarling. And I just imagine the scene in Game of Thrones where Ramsay's tied to the chair and Sansa just sicks his dogs on him.
That's such a vicious and necessary scene.
Yeah, it just eats his face. That's just what I imagine is what happened in this basement, and that's why they hear animals growling and stuff like that.
Just to clarify, in case it didn't sound like I hoped it would sound, vicious and necessary, not vicious unnecessary.
Oh, wait, when it happened, I was like, he deserved it.
Absolutely.
He deserved it. Fuck you, Ramsay Bolton.
Ramsay Snow. He'll never be a true Bolton.
Aw, it's true.
Fudge him.
Anyway, so a comedian / employee / security guard named Blake Clark heard loud, strange noises coming from the basement around 3 a.m. Of course it's around 3 a.m. When he went down to check on the situation, he heard a guttural growl and then witnessed what seemed to be an invisible force push against the padlocked metal gate of the front of the basement. And apparently the force was so strong, it was so much that it actually bowed the gate outwards. And he was understandably rattled and got the fuck out of there. And then on another occasion, returned once again to the basement with fellow comedian Joey Gaynor. And when they went down there, they encountered a dark entity that seemed like he was 7 feet tall. It was huge. And it floated across the floor, and they immediately ran and left the building entirely. Because they're just like, fuck this shit.
They noped the fuck out.
So they went back in to check if what they saw was real. Because why not? Just go back in there.
I just love the picture of anytime shit like this happens, like, all around the world, regardless of whatever culture or language it is, something scary happens, you run away. You stand there and rationalize it with whoever you're with. Like, did that just happen? It's like, well, let's go check. And then you fucking go back in.
Oh, my God. So they went back in to check if it was real. And what they found was an entity crouched in the corner. When said entity noticed them, it rose and came right at them. And they just ran for their lives. But noted that it seemed to have a black hole where its face should have been. Which is absolutely terrifying. I would never go back there. I would have never gone back there the first time.
I mean, I think I would have gone back in there. Like, my eyes must have deceived me.
I would have sent the other dude in there. Like, go check it. Yeah, I'll stand here.
Go Facebook Live. I'll watch from out here.
So, Clark's last venture into the basement had him checking on strange noises yet again. And when he got to the basement, he watched a black piece of paper seemingly materialize out of thin air and touched his hand as it floated to the floor. When he picked it up, it said one thing on it. His name.
That's creepy as fuck.
So it just I have chills. It's so creepy. So he never set foot in the basement ever again. He was just like, I'm never going back there. Because that thing knows his name. He's seen it. It's seen him. You know, he's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Fuck this, I'm out.
What if it needs his help? And that's why I wrote him a note. Like, I know you.
It's like that in one of the Annabelle movies where Annabelle keeps writing the girl's notes and it's just not cute or charming. It's terrifying.
It is pretty terrifying regardless.
So this entity is known as the Dark Man and has been seen by others in the parking lot. It's sometimes seen hiding in shadows. And then when someone sees it, it disappears. You know, when it notices someone notices it. A witness in 2009, so, oh my God, 11 years ago.
Oh my God, it is 11 years ago now. Holy shit.
Okay, so a witness in 2009 describes I just feel really old right now, sorry. It describes a tall man with eyes that were just dark holes where eyes should have been. And, quote, he was smiling, but his face wasn't sized right to his mouth or something, because it looked like his mouth took up the whole lower half of his face, end quote.
I'm seeing the Batman who laughs smiling. I don't know if any of you know who that is from more recent Batman comics.
While I was scrolling through a bunch of these websites, someone posted the picture of the Babadook, and it scared the fuck out of me.
That's a really good representation,
I was just like,
too.
no, I don't want to look at this right now. I was so scared. Okay, so the main room is where a lot of activity has happened as well. There's a frequent apparition that those in the know have named Gus. He's always seen in a black suit and gives off the vibe of his possibly being one of Cohen's hitmen. Clark, the same guy who saw all the scary things in the basement, also claims to have seen a chair slide 20 feet across the stage floor, like it was pushed in under one of the dining room tables and it just slid 20 feet across the floor. Fuck that. He understandably got the fuck out of there. Another instance had Clark and then Joey Gaynor again. Joey Gaynor demanded the spirits make themselves known and had an ashtray float and fly at his head.
They're like, make myself known, huh? How about this?
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, it missed him, luckily, barely, and then slammed into the wall, which is terrifying. There's a ghost of a woman who's often heard in the showroom and whispers to those that she encounters. Though they never actually see her, her voice is pretty well known to everybody that's employed there.
What does she say?
I'm just thinking of, what does the fox say?
Wow. I bet you I know what she says.
What?
We've really been trying to reach you.
Dude, I keep...
About your extended warranty.
So someone called my grandpa. Someone's been calling my grandpa about an extended warranty.
I fucking told you, man.
So he's like, anytime he sees a number that he doesn't know, he's like, I'm not picking that up. That's bullshit. He doesn't say that, obviously. My grandpa is not like me. Okay, he's more proper. Anyway, so one of the more famous instances of paranormal activity happened during a stand-up set of Sam Kinison. Do you know who that is?
I do. I talked about his death in the past.
Really?
Yeah, he was supposed to be in that movie about the Inuit.
Yeah, okay. And I was reading, too, that he got into a car crash. And so, did you go into detail with the car crash?
A little bit. I didn't go too in-depth with it.
Okay, so let me go through this, and then we'll go back to the car crash, because it has nothing to do with the story, but it was so interesting. It was crazy.
I know that he didn't have any drugs or alcohol in his system. That's about as deep as I went into it.
Okay, so Sam Kinison, right? One of the most famous instances of paranormal activity during his stand-up. Apparently, Kinison was a former preacher that had a very loud and energetic, voice.
If anyone's ever heard or seen Sam Kinison, like, the sound of his voice is burned into your brain because he screamed at least once per, like, joke.
Yeah. It would start like a normal room volume and then escalate to like verbal assault, pretty much. And so obviously it didn't work very well with his preaching. People were like, I don't know how I feel about this. So he turned to comedy, and that's kind of where he gained traction. And some think that his voice alone rose the dead.
Wow.
Not really. They didn't raise the dead, but they think that is kind of what stirred up the spirits. So because he's just so intense with his stand-up.
Plus, he used to be a preacher.
Yeah. So during a good number of his sets, there would be audio or electric problems. There would be this part freaks me out. There would be strange hisses through the speakers that witnesses, like whole shows of witnesses, would claim sounded like someone angrily saying, it's him, over and over again. That's
so creepy.
Yeah. And then there would be other, like, I have chills right now.
I got goosies.
Yeah, I know, dude, look. It would just be like a whole bunch of voices, kind of like
this
getting louder
guy.
And louder and louder. Yeah, and so that's what it sounded like through the speakers, right? So one night, after having had enough of these strange things happening, he challenged the ghost, stating that they needed to stop messing around and that it should show itself. And as soon as he said that, the lights of the entire club went out. And
that's fucking so creepy.
Yeah, so the whole club, the lights went out. Everyone was just in darkness. And so the crowd was just like, what the fuck is going on? some say that the spirits disliked Kinnison so much because of his religious background.
Exactly.
So back to his car crash. I was reading a bunch of stuff, obviously, and one thing said that during this car crash, it was his car followed by one of his friend's cars. He had another person in the car with him. And
it was his wife.
Oh, it was his wife. And
then, like 7 days, they had just got married.
Yeah, they'd just gotten married, and they got into a head-on collision with another car.
A kid who was drunk driver.
And I think the people in the car behind him came to check on him, and when they saw him, he was talking to somebody that
he went out into the road. I heard
he
crawled out of the car and went into the road.
He was talking to somebody that wasn't there, but it's like they were actually having a conversation. So he would talk to, I have chills because it freaked me out. So he was talking to this person like they were there and would stop and pause for the other person that wasn't there to respond. And so then he responded like, really? Like, I'm not ready. And so the other person would respond and then he was just like, oh, okay. And then so the person that was watching this happen, just saw him, Kinnison was like overcome with like just a blissful look on his face, and then he died.
Yeah. What's crazy about it is I've heard the story. I didn't bring it up in mine too much because I was really focusing on that movie Curse. But one of the people who knew the person that saw this happen was so convinced
that he saw something?
That he had seen something. When he told the story of, like, this is what happened when Sam died, was Ozzy Osbourne.
Shut up!
And Ozzy Osbourne talked about it on the record, and he's like, I know a lot of my fans won't like that I said this, but he's like, he said something along the lines of, like, he sincerely thought God came to take him away. Like, and he believed it deeply. Like, someone came to talk to him before he died and took him to heaven. Like... And it's something like really serene and peaceful coming from someone like Ozzy Osbourne, like the Lord of Dark or the Prince of Darkness or whatever. But when that happened, he's like, I don't give a fuck who's pissed at me. Like, this is what I believe, and everyone can get fucked. And that's what he said. He 100% said like he believed that happened to Sam
I think that's absolutely just so crazy that happened, you know? And then this these spirits at this comedy club were just like, we don't like him. You know, so it's just something that's so somewhat disturbing because it's like these things knew, you know, that this guy was super duper religious. They could just tell because it's not like he was preaching to the people. He was just doing a comedy set. But
it's like he has that aura around him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. Anyway, okay. That's a huge tangent, but it was just something that's so interesting. One of the other ghosts that's said to haunt the building is that of a comedian named Steve Lubitkin. Have you heard? I've never heard of him before.
I've never heard of him either.
He tried to unsuccessfully get the comedians to strike for higher wages because apparently back in the day, they didn't even get paid when they started the club. So Sammy Shore, Rudy DeLuca, they started it. Sammy Shore got divorced. And his wife got the club in the divorce.
That's Pauly Shore's mom. 100% convinced now. Cool.
Okay. So the wife got the club in the divorce. She was like, I'm not paying you guys because I think this is a good deal. You get the exposure for playing in my club. I'm not paying you to play in my club. So they wouldn't pay any of the comedians. And
I just Googled him to see if I remembered him, and I saw headlines that I'm sure you're building to, so I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, so apparently back in the day, they didn't get paid. It didn't work out, him trying to get people to strike. So he was banned from ever performing in the club again, and obviously went into, like, super depressed spiral. Like, that was what he wanted to do, and it was going to hurt his career so much. So depressed, he went to the top of the building next door, the Continental Hyatt House, and jumped to his death. And supposedly, he was aiming for the roof of the Comedy Store, but ended up landing near the entrance, which is...
better. More of a statement. I'm just saying if I'm jumping off that roof, I'm not aiming for another roof. I'm aiming for someone everyone's going to see me go splat.
Oh my God, that's messed up. So, his suicide note simply stated, quote, "My name is Steve Lubitkin. I used to work at the Comedy Store," end quote. That was it.
Wow.
It's said that you can feel a sad presence in the area, and so they think that that's him. Some also say that his ghost is the one that pranks them in the Comedy Store all the time and jokes with them and things like that. In more recent times, So October 2015, a man was fatally shot at the entrance of the club from like 10 feet away. And there were about 150 people inside watching a show during that time.
Wow.
That's just, oh my God, this place, you know? Most ghosts that are seen seem to be 1940s era men that are just hanging around looking as if they're security of some sort, like they're in their suits and things like that. There have been a number of paranormal and psychic investigations of the Comedy Store, and even they have come across strange things. One has witnessed random coins falling from the ceiling during their visit. Yeah, I think that's so strange. I think I might have watched that episode. Like, I think one of the ghost shows that I've seen in the past had that happen to them. It might have been Ghost Adventures, I don't know. One has experienced excruciating leg pain in the basement, likening it to having their legs broken.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Maybe they're related to a snitch.
But that sounds like something Zach Bagans would say.
Yeah. They then went blind and were possessed by a 12-foot-tall demon.
So you can still go to the Comedy Store, obviously, today. People have booked weddings, like Liza Minnelli, and events there and things like that. So, yeah. They even had this thing called Haunted Midnights events during the Halloween season, and it was like hosted by the guy from Unsolved Mysteries and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's good shit.
Yeah.
That Sam Kinison thing is super, super sad. I did not know that happened during one of his sets.
Yeah.
That's so creepy.
Super duper creepy. This is just I don't know. Tonight, I have had a lot of chills, which is good.
She had chills, and they're multiplying.
They were multiplying, yeah.
It's pretty good stuff. Solid research, Robin. Golf clap.
Golf clap for you, too. Yours was good.
Thank you. I thought we had a good episode 109.
Seriously, tonight was full of a whole bunch of chills. Like, my skin was just constantly crawling.
It was a lot of ghost stories. We've gotten away from some ghost stories and towards other things. We've done, like, some true crime stuff. It's been super fun doing that, but it's always nice to go back to some creepy shit. I'm just saying.
And this is a good mix of, like, true crime and ghosts, so it worked out.
It was fun to talk about some of the things that I actually know about when it comes to true crime, like Mickey Cohen, and then to also talk about the Comedy Store. And it's just
good that we're, together, because I have no idea about any of these people, and so it was really cool.
We fill in the deficits of each other's knowledge and nerddom, so I think that works out pretty well.
Cute.
So thank you so much for those of you who listen. We sincerely appreciate you. If you have any stories you would like to share with us, please do so by emailing storytime@scaryish.com, or you can go to our website, scaryish.com, click on Contact Us, and send us a message that way. You can also message us on any of our social medias, facebook.com/scariyishpodcast, Twitter is @scariyishpod, and Instagram is @scariyishpodcast. I know I already talked about Patreon, but Robin, for those folks who would like to donate to us monetarily, how can they do so?
So you can go to patreon.com/scariyishpodcast. Obviously, he already covered that. January Patreon push. And you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scariyishpodcast. Those are one-time donations. All those donations help us upgrade our studio setup. Adam just got this brand new microphone.
It is beautiful.
He loves it. Using, Christmas money and
Christmas money, gift cards, and just a little bit of money from the streams that we were doing, which was perfectly timed. So
thank you guys so much. We just want to keep making the podcast better for you guys. So
absolutely.
And pins come in tomorrow. I'm super duper excited. Well, no, that's today. So pins come in today. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, I'm very, very excited. As soon as I come home from work, I'm going to go through them, sort them, figure it out. And if you folks want to order them, please go to etsy.com /Robin's Quiet Corner, I think. And or you can just go to Scaryish.com. There's a link at the bottom to my Etsy shop, and you guys can do that. Or you can just look Scaryish up on Etsy. You can just do the search bar thing.
Plus, all of our social medias have a link to the pre-order pinned at the top. So if you go to Scaryish.com, that's one way to get to the store. But if you go to like Facebook, Twitter, and then I think one other of our social medias also
there's
has
a whole bunch of stuff.
Maybe our Discord has a link in there. Either way, there's a bunch of ways to get it, and if not, just message us and we'll send you the link.
So I'm going to get the backing cards on Wednesday. The pins come in tomorrow or today. And I'm super duper duper excited because then I'll get to ship them out to everybody who's pre-ordered. I've already gotten so many pre-orders. I'm so excited. And I'm really happy and excited to get these out to you guys because they're great. I am just so excited about it. Sorry.
It's good stuff. And thank you so much to those of you who have already pre-ordered them. It's amazing to see support for a product before it gets launched. That makes us realize we can keep doing stuff like that and making new products. So you guys are fantastic. We absolutely love all of you. And I think that is just about everything that we have for episode 109. So, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.